From Chester, I went to Pyramid, and that's when I met you.
Right.
But I was coming from Chester, really in retreat mode.
Yeah.
Because I went out there expecting to do everything that I'm doing now,
Mm-hmm.
and but I went out there kind of like in a kind of like a state of duress because I had moved from the studio in Port Richmond, trying to grow too fast. I guess that's the story of my life.
Yeah.
And then my friends in Chester were they were a little more ahead because they were doing furniture.
Yeah.
So when it came to found objects and thrifting on that level,
sourcing and
yeah, they were a little more ahead because they knew that they were into the furniture business.
Right.
But I was always a fashion buyer. I was always a merchandiser. So I always had kind of like that vintage IQ.
Yeah.
So sourcing from that angle was always second nature.
Yeah.
But then taking it up a notch and like looking at just random items and saying, "Oh, this would look dope in the space."
Seeing like anything that has value. And,
that I evolved into that in my experience with Chester. Like that Chester experience really heightened my awareness of what I can take out of one space and bring it to another. But yeah, I'm originally from Jersey. Me and Chicago are from the Jersey Shore.
No way.
Asbury Park.
No way.
Yeah.
My mom is she grew up in Freehold.
Okay.
Yeah, so she's like.
I know all about
area.
Freehold.
Yeah,
we used to
Freemold.
Yeah, Freemold. You get stuck up Freehold.
Yeah.
We used to play them in basketball, in AAU and stuff like that. So I know a lot about Freehold. Yeah, so that's how I found out about Philly because in Central Jersey, in that particular area, some of my friends that were a little older than I was were coming to Philly.
Gotcha.
And they would come back with the Philly stories.
Were some friends like into the New York's like trying to get up into New York and some like kind of into Philly? Or
I'm super young right now, so at this age that I'm exploring outside of
Asbury.
Let's say 17, 16. So the only other experience that I had with leaving that area is like going to New York. So it was like you either go to New York or you go down south. But so to come over to Philly is the way I feel about maybe going to Cleveland now.
Right.
Cleveland is there, but who goes over to Cleveland? You know what I mean? So I had to have somebody kind of usher me into Philly and say, nah, Philly is dope. But I was 16, 17, so that's still young, you know. So coming back and forth between Jersey and Philly was that awakening of networking, of people and meeting and stuff like that, which eventually caused me to move here. And which was shortly after that. Like I'm not talking like decades apart. Like the very next couple years, I meet a girl. I'm over here now. So that's kind of what got me into the Philly culture.
Gotcha.
And then my grandmother was in North Jersey, like East Orange, Newark area.
Yeah.
So growing up, I was between East Orange, Newark, and then Asbury Park, Neptune. Like you said, Freehold, Long Branch, that whole Monmouth County. And then that's what kind of introduced me to Philly.
Gotcha.
And then when I got here, I just I lived my entire adult life here.
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur, actually, I stepped off the porch selling clothes.
Yeah.
Because I knew about New York, I was more valuable than the average street vendor.
For sure.
Because I wasn't getting stuff from Fifth Street.
Were you like thrifting in high school?
No. My mom was on eBay with jewelry.
Okay.
And my mom collected antiques in the house.
Yeah.
So I had an odd.
You grew up in an eclectic kind of curated.
A little bit, yeah. She never finishes though, so.
That's how I kind of feel like just with a space you come into it.
No, I pay attention to people, man. My eye for fashion came from the looking out the window into places that I wasn't supposed to go. My mom was very overprotective. So certain hangouts and certain things growing up that I wasn't allowed to engage. It made me kind of like look out the window and pay attention to culture more, listen to culture more growing up. So when I was able to go out and try it on my own, I was like mentally curated for like kind of how the youngins are now with the social media. Like they'll put their whole thing together off a mood board and then come outside like this has been me the whole time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what happened in terms of like me getting into fashion. Like I always enjoyed the art of people styling themselves. Like I felt like, you know, it was one thing that Jay-Z said when he met Dame Dash, and when Dame Dash met Jay-Z, it was like a cliche moment. And he said he looked at his tennis shoes and saw the way that he laced his Air Force Ones.
Yeah.
Now, and listening to that now, it's like, you know, a bit pretentious, a bit cliche, you know. Sure. But the putting myself in that mind frame, 16, 17, 15, that's what I was doing. I was looking for those details.
Those little unique
and people's style to kind of give me, to make me more curious about them. Sure. It intrigues me more about them. So I've always embodied that. So then when I got an opportunity to sell clothes myself and I saw the merchants that I was working for, what they were doing and how they were merchandising, I was like, oh, okay, I get what you guys are doing, but this is how I would approach it. And that's kind of like, you know, how I got my skin in the game. And then I just started, and just like that, just like how I connect with you guys, just hovering around like-minded people, just trying to be as genuine as I can, trying to be transparent. I'm clearly flawed. Here I go. But you know, you're gonna get the best, you know, version of me that I can provide at that moment. So that kind of kept me in these creative spaces, like with Hamid and with like Kenya and these different guys in the Philadelphia experience. And I'm saying this because everybody looks at the Philadelphia experience like it's like this hardcore, gritty experience. And my whole entire time here has been an adventure. And I'm in my 40s now, so we're talking about a 25-year trajectory, timeline of my life. And you know, it was an adventure, and it was an adventure of art and entrepreneurship. Although people were dying around me. You know, didn't mean to laugh at that, but
no. You gotta face adversity with a little laughter.
Oh my God, bro! Always. If I don't chuckle a little bit, man.
I know.
Oh man, but yeah. So you know, as the world was crumbling down around me, I was discovering my creativity and my ability to be a merchant and merchandiser, and I was living amongst this community, you know, that was all struggling the same way. Like this industrious poor. I did an Instagram post on this called "The Industrious Poor." It's a poverty that's not lazy. It's a poverty that's not degenerate, or you know, it's that hard working class that just it cannot connect those dots. And the sacrifices that you make in survival, it comes out a bit off kilt, you know, maybe, you know, a bit degenerate, you know, and people can have, you know, their opinions about the outcome or the outlook of your life, you know. You know how it is when you're creative talking to your parents, maybe. But imagine that being your whole existence, generational. You know, your whole existence is trying to explain that you're not lazy, it just didn't come together yet. Or these opportunities are just, you know, slightly out of my reach. Or I got this opportunity, but because all of these different things were just not in order, the opportunity really couldn't help. So these are the things that, being in Philly, I was around a community of people like that, where the struggle wasn't because of drug abuse or because of, you know, just not caring about life. You know, these are actually college-bred people who have extreme talent that just live in this particular environment that just doesn't cater to that. And from a fiscal, there's no industry to support that, like in New York or like Atlanta or LA. That's why everybody moves to these places. So for me to try to do that in Philly was brave. For me to come to Philly to say, all right, we're going to do something creative here, and not just be a cast of New York shadow. You know, it was brave to take that position. But knowing what I know today, it's like, wow, man. New York is New York for a reason.
It really is.
And if you want to get what New York has to offer, you can't get it from Philly. And that's a reality when it comes to just being a creative. This marketplace is a blue collar marketplace. It's meant for you to rent houses. It's meant for you to work a city job.
Yep.
If you got some farming going on, okay, bring your vegetables.
Yeah.
But outside of that, we don't really have the industry here. We don't have the marketing dollars. We don't have it's just not, this is not the marketplace.
Yeah.
It's hard to accept that when there's so many creative people here.
It's crazy.
You know, but that's the reason why New York is so close. It's to keep creative people servicing New York.
And yeah, the one to just always just get up and go there.
New York is not pulling its talent from New York.
Yeah.
It's pulling it from Jersey, Philly, Connecticut, Buffalo.
Yeah.
And that makes up the New York City, Queens.
Yeah.
That makes up the New York City experience. How do you fight against that trying to be an up-and-coming brand? You got to go with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the reality that I just realized. Bam.
Yeah, we had that conversation of just like, you know, making, you know, putting the microscope on, you know, what we're trying to do. And, hey, we're doing it here in Philly. And, you know,
that's part and parcel.
Moving.
That's part and parcel to a global village.
Yeah, yeah.
Like right now, we're manufacturing in another country.
Yeah. Okay,
we're selling in other cities, or when other cities come to us, like a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Our customer is a tourist that's coming to Philly for the Philly experience.
Yeah.
They're going to the art museum, and then once they get the fine art, they want to know what the local art is hitting for.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we do have like some of the coolest museums in the fucking country.
But it services New York.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
We have to know our position in that marketplace.
Yeah.
And being young, no one gives you the macro view. Mm-hmm. One time I saw a commercial on Philly, and I saw it was a 1980s commercial, and they were trying to advertise Philly and why should you come to Philly, you know, and visit Philly. And when I listened to the reasons why, I said, wow, these reasons haven't changed since the 70s.
Yeah.
That's
Philly
like
Inquirer
okay.
just published an article like why the sixth borough name is sticking like to Philly, and it's like I don't know, it's crazy.
Right, because you can live here and still work in Manhattan.
Yeah.
That's a slap in the face.
It is.
When you got a downtown with a skyline.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm not saying that to be condescending to Philly, but as small businesses, we have to service the carnival. Mm-hmm. And if the carnival isn't here, then we have to go to the carnival. And that's what I was saying to you guys before. Like, we should do something pop-ups on like Canal Street. We should go down here. Yeah. And even before I got the store, I was making most of my money in DC. We used to have to drive all the way to DC just to make a living. Yeah, so two times a month, I'm driving down there to make my rent.
Yeah.
So I thought the store was going to supplement that. And it could have. It did. I'm not taking away from it.
Yeah.
But just all of those components and moving parts that it needs of a system to have a business in Philly and still deliver a world-class service. The client is just not trolling and strolling through North Philly.
Yeah, like how often are those storefronts rotating on like Walnut Street near Rittenhouse? Like every other year it seems like. Like the Lulu just went out of business.
Whoa.
North Face just went out of business.
Whoa.
Yeah, like all those stores. The only person holding it down is like that Urban Outfitters and that Anthropology.
But look at their business model.
Yeah.
They knock off everything and they're killing it with the margins.
Yeah.
So it's like.
Yeah, they outsource to China and Vietnam.
Yeah, they don't even live by what those other brands live by, like Lululemon.
Anthropology is like the study and appreciation of people, and it's like it's fucking.
All right, but there's a bigger thing going on with Urban Outfitters. They're selling real estate too.
Yeah. And
that reclaimed business, like selling things.
They're acquiring businesses too.
Yeah,
They acquired like Pizzeria Vetri, which is like a restaurateur and all that stuff. Like,
they're definitely the blueprint on what this industry that we're in. They're the blueprint. My mistake was approaching it from the retail aspect first, and not from the rollout aspect. Like you have to have a rollout plan and then trickle it down to retail.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps those guys in business, you know. And there's a Lululemon somewhere. Another thing too, this is Urban Outfitters corporate area.
Yeah,
Like
true.
so this is home